Hi, I'm Paula from Earth Moves, and today I'm really excited to interview our permaculture consultant Tomas Remiarz. He is the author of Forest Gardening in Practice, which is one of the best permaculture books that I've read. So we're going to be talking about our project and how permaculture can be used to help disadvantaged people and how to use permaculture in your own home, your own garden, etc. Tomas, can you explain to me what permaculture actually is, just in a nutshell?
For me, it starts with connecting with the land. So wherever you are, understand what that land is like. And also asking yourself, what does this land need in order to thrive? What can it give? How can I connect with it? And that will be very different depending whether you're in a little garden or on a big piece of land like Telegraph Lane, or you might not have much land yourself, but you still have the land around, like the area around you, and sometimes we don't see that. We don't get the feeling that there is land even in that street. There's roads, there's like built up places, but under all that, the land is still there, and kind of just actually connecting back with that, so like what is the shape, so where does water want to run in this place, and so on. And so that's the beginning point, understanding what the land is, and then understanding out of that engagement with the land, we start to understand how nature works, in your place, and then we can go out from there to like how nature works in general.
Your book's very good for looking at a lot of different spaces, different sizes.
Yeah.
So I recommend people get that, because I think there's something for everyone. And that's the great thing about permaculture, isn't it? There's a way to apply that in small and large spaces. That's
right, yeah. So once we understand some of the patterns that reappear in nature everywhere, some of those principles, then we can start applying them, whether that's in our garden or for growing food, but we can also apply that to how we work together, how we work with other people, because some of those ideas of relationships and of addressing needs, so we can address the needs of a piece of land, but also of the people around us, or our own needs. We can think about, like, what can I give, what can other people give, so how can we work together. We can think about the flow of energy over a piece of land, or between a group of people in a community. So all of those patterns of nature we can also apply to ourselves, how we work with each other, how we interact.
I think people really need something like that now, some sort of structure that helps them to connect with nature and connect with themselves. I was just wondering, how do you feel, because permaculture is kind of traditionally seen as quite a white, middle class, male thing, but in our project in Telegraph Lane, especially transforming land, transforming people, we're working with a lot of different diverse strands of people, and some of them are disadvantaged. Could you explain to me how permaculture is and should be used and accessible to more disadvantaged people than is currently, using permaculture?
But I think it's like globally, actually, permaculture is applied in many situations where people are very disadvantaged. And there's like 10,000s of peasant farmers in Nepal, like working with permaculture. There are people working in refugee camps using permaculture.
That's brilliant, isn't it? That's great.
And in many like disaster situations, permaculture people are like some of the first people who responded and enable communities to work out their own response and like with simple techniques and so on.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But if we're looking at urban Britain, so where there are a lot of people that don't necessarily have a voice, don't necessarily have easy access to nature and so on. I think one of the things that permaculture can bring in like situations like these is that like first like going through a process of first creating an awareness of that, well, we are in nature wherever we are.
Yeah.
There is nature, and we are part of it. So I am part of that nature, and I can connect with like other species.
It's gorgeous.
Whether it's a tree in the street or in the park, whether it's a little overgrown patch of neglected land. So nature is there somewhere. Even like a dandelion in the cracks in the pavement. That's nature reasserting itself and appreciating that and realizing that nature cannot be suppressed.
Wow.
And then I'm thinking
Yeah.
about, okay, so I am nature too.
Yeah.
So how can I flourish? How can I make the nature in my area flourish and connect with that? So that's one thing. So self-awareness, so that nature exists and I'm part of it. That's the first step. Then the second step from that is that actually connecting with needs and gifts, I'd like to say. So like what do I need? What can I give? What does this land need? What can this land give? And then expressing those needs and expressing that generosity, so like letting that generosity thrive
Lovely.
of myself, of the land, of each other. So that's kind of finding a voice in a way. So that's the second step, finding a voice for needs, for generosity, for connection. And then out of that, then the next step can be agency.
Okay.
So actually being able to, through the voice and hearing other voices, then we become choir, don't we? So then we can start singing together as a community and create stuff together.
That's lovely.
And then having worked out what our community needs, what we need together, then stepping in to our power and making that happen.
I
So
always think
that's
that
the process.
people diversity is like biodiversity. I think the more diverse voices, the more rich the experiences, and the more we learn from each other, the more we can grow. So
Absolutely. So the more voices we allow to be part of that conversation, the richer the song will become in a way.
how do you think that someone with a little garden or no garden, maybe living in a family, could they use permaculture principles to, even design their house or design their garden or design their windowsills? Is that possible to apply permaculture principles to small groups like families?
I think that's a really important question for especially urban areas, whether that's in Britain or worldwide. So how do we connect, even if we haven't got immediate access to a lot of land? I think one very powerful idea that permaculture brings in that we always make ethical decisions, whatever we do, and so it doesn't even necessarily have to do with growing food directly.
Yeah.
So one thing, if we're looking at the world as a whole, is that we know we need to move away from using fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And that is an urgent task, and each one of us can make some very simple decisions to help with that. One question is who are you banking with? And so basically don't invest your money into banks that support fossil fuel. And then you can think about arms and factory farming and so on, all the things that are destructive to the planet. Take your money away from people who invest in that and give it to people who invest in alternatives. So there's ethical banks about, there's credit unions that where you can invest locally, there's building societies that have ethical policies as well. So think about where your money goes. Another basic decision is kind of who's your energy supply, because there are energy suppliers who only source from renewables, and there are others who still invest in gas and oil and nuclear and so on. So change your energy supplier to somebody who uses renewable fuels. So those are some ethical decisions. But then, yeah, in terms of growing, just the first step again is kind of to just connect with life. And even if you just have a box on the windowsill or on the balcony, so you can still connect with a plant, with a few plants, and then go out and see where are the wild plants in your area.
I think growing plants encourages composting as well, home composting, because you've got a reason to do it, and plus you're not consuming the landfill sites and stuff like that. So can we just talk briefly about our project in Telegraph Lane, how we're applying permaculture to it, and how we're, looking at issues of human transformation, growth, improvements in mental health, and also improving the land, helping with the flooding and increasing the biodiversity and so on.
Yeah, I mean, what I love about Telegraph Lane is how those two things come together, and how they mirror each other, like the work with the land and the work with the people. It's a healing process for both. So the land, there is no perfection in it. So then there are some great challenges around flow of water, around the plants that are already there, and trying to grow things with those or sometimes despite. And how we work with the nature of the land and kind of bring the best out of it is that is one of the questions. And what I've seen is that kind of the same thing is true of the people. None of those people are kind of perfect and superhuman. Everybody's human and everybody's got their challenges, sometimes big challenges in their lives and coming out of their lives. But everybody makes a contribution. Everybody has potential, and what Earth Moves is trying to do, and what I really appreciate is that it's trying to make a space where everybody can flourish, and people can connect and together make something that's bigger than just the individual and bigger than the sum of the parts even. So that's something bigger grows out of that, and something much richer, and that's what I love about Earth Moves. Yeah, there are a couple of ways that kind of how you work, not just what you're trying to do, or how you work, that I really, really like, and what I think a lot of other people can already learn from how Earth Moves is working. And one is about diversity and kind of how you're including people. What I've seen you do, that everybody kind of has contributions to make, and how you're working with neurodiversity, where people kind of actively including people, disabled people, neurodiverse people, and other marginalised groups. So that is really, really beautiful and moving.
Big proportion of people are also on the queer spectrum too. And that I think brings in that lovely flamboyance and wildness as well, which kind of is sitting here, that kind of reminds me of that. So it's that permaculture sometimes can be seen as a bit kind of drab and kind of serious and you kind of really camping it up, I
like
do hope
putting
so.
when people talk about permaculture and camp, you know, kind of people thinking about kind of boot camp, you know, kind of like, oh, this is the kind of the other kind of camp, and it's yeah, kind of it's like taking off the hair shirt and putting on the glad rags, you know, kind of, and so I really love the way you kind of bring in creativity and colour and fun into it.
It's lovely, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, and kind of, yeah, like that's something that I really like it.
Oh, well, Earth Moves loves you very much, and we're really grateful for all the help and consultancy that you've given us. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.